Hi everybody, my name's Cameron and today we're going to be looking at ecology. In particular, we're going to be looking at food security, the carbon cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle, as well as some ecological terms that you need to know. Okay, so what is food security? Food security is having enough food to feed a population, okay, sustainably usually. So some of the factors that may affect food security are climate change. Okay, so if crops struggle to grow in a certain climate because it has become too hot or it is not raining anymore, this can affect the food security of the world. Deforestation, so as we deforest an area, okay, and we kind of get it ready for a crop, it becomes very infertile and can remain like that for many years, okay, which can also lead to a lack of available land for food farming. Okay, a growing population, obviously an increased amount of people means an increased amount of competition for food and an increase in the need for food. Okay, and the demand for food increases, as well as war and conflict. Okay, so this can lead to famines and disease within that country that is at war. New pests and new pathogens can destroy entire crops. Okay, so with the increase in temperatures around the world, it is leading to new pathogens being spread and growing as the environment gets much more, hospitable for these pathogens to live and grow. Okay, and of course we know that something like locusts can wipe out entire crops, and as mankind messes with ecosystems and we kill the predators of certain species, it can lead to something like a locust being out of control and wiping out our entire crops. Okay, as well as changing in diets, okay, and an increase in the convenience of food and therefore the increase in food wastage. Okay, so as your first world countries go through their phases and of being keto or being carnivores or something like that, is going to change the demand for food and therefore the types of crops and the types of livestock that will need to be farmed for these changing diets. Okay, so let's look at the carbon cycle first of all. Carbon is continuously cycled throughout our ecosystems. It starts out by being in the air as CO2, okay, which is a gas. It's then going to be taken up by plants. This is going to convert it into glucose, okay, C6H12O6. That carbon is sitting in there, and then oxygen is released as the byproduct, okay? But that carbon is then going to be ingested by animals. Okay, as animals use that glucose, they are going to respire. As a waste product, carbon dioxide is formed, which sends it back into the atmosphere. Okay, it's also going to be sent back to the atmosphere by your decomposers. Okay, and our factories as well as our burning of fuels are also contributing to the amount of carbon dioxide released back into the atmosphere. So if you wipe out just plants, okay, from this equation, it's going to have a very heavy impact on the rest of the food chain. Okay, another byproduct to decomposers as well as living organisms is methane. Okay, now methane can be used as a biofuel, so it can be burnt to cook as well as in industrial processes. And we have biogas generators like the one below there, which create methane, and then this methane can be used in homes or in factories. Okay, so it's sort of an alternative to the fossil fuels that we usually use. Okay, then we all know about the water cycle. Okay, so water vapor is going to condense as clouds in the sky. This is going to rain, precipitate onto the land. This water from the land is then going to be taken up by plants as well as animals. Okay, the animals and plants are both then going to release this water either by transpiration in plants or through bodily fluids as animals, such as sweating or urine, okay? And that's going to then evaporate and be taken back into the atmosphere where the cycle can start again. Okay, so some ecological terms that you need to know. Biotic means all the factors in an ecosystem that are living. Abiotic is obviously the non-living factors. So abiotic, biotic meaning life, abiotic the opposite. Okay, so the dead things. Then we're going to have our producers, which are also known as our autotroph. They're going to be taking in the sun's energy and creating or turning it into, converting it into chemical energy, something that the rest of the food chain can then use. Okay. Now the next thing that will eat the producers would be our primary consumers. These are our herbivores. Okay. The secondary consumers are then going to be consuming the primary consumers. Okay. And finally, our tertiary consumers are going to be consuming our secondary consumers. Okay. Now it's important to know that the biomass of these consumers is the amount of biomass that they get is going to decrease as you go up the food chain. Okay. So your primary consumers are getting the most energy and the most biomass from the producers. Okay, whereas your tertiary consumers are getting the least amount of energy and biomass from their diet. Okay. So then we get to decomposers. Now decomposers are beneficial for the environment, or actually 100% necessary for a stable ecological environment, okay, because they are going to help with carbon cycling as well as nitrogen cycling, but we'll get to that. So initially what they're going to do is they're going to break down dead organic matter. When we say organic matter, we're talking about matter that contains carbon. Without decomposers, all dead leaves, all dead trees, all dead animals would just stay there. Their bodies wouldn't rot, you see. So our mushrooms, our bacteria, some insects, okay, these are all considered decomposers. They eat dead, decaying matter, okay, and they then produce something that is usable by plants, okay, and that can be recycled into the environment. What they require is usually warm temperatures, okay, so there's faster decomposition in warmer temperatures, moisture, okay, as well as oxygen, okay, for aerobic respiration. Okay, now when it comes to the nitrogen cycle, okay, it is a constant movement of nitrogen into nitrates. That's what you need to know. So nitrogen is released into the atmosphere. Something like 75% of our atmosphere is nitrogen gas. It's unreactive, it's N2. Okay, but plants need nitrogen to survive. Okay, so what happens is this can either be converted to nitrates by lightning. Okay, it can also be converted into nitrates by nitrogen fixing bacteria that are found in the plants. Okay. It's also going to be converted into nitrates by humans during something called the Haber process. Okay, this is when we make ammonia fertilizers. Okay, so these fertilizers are going to have nitrates in them that can then feed the plants. Okay, and then to get back into the atmosphere is usually by denitrifying bacteria. Okay, which are going to take nitrates and convert them back into nitrogen gas. These are found in the soil. Okay, so when it comes to an ecosystem, how can we tell whether an ecosystem is healthy or whether an ecosystem is damaged and sick? Okay, we can usually tell by polluted water or the quality of the water. So this is water that is usually containing bloodworms or sludge worms. These are two different types of worms that will tell you that the quality of that water is quite bad, okay, because they're going to be feasting on decaying matter within the water. We don't want much of that. Clean water is identified as harboring freshwater shrimps and stoneflies. So if the water is clean, you'll see these two indicator species. Okay, so the bloodworms, the sludge worms are indicator species of dirty water, low quality, while your freshwater shrimps and stoneflies are indicator species of good quality water. When it comes to air quality, the amount of lichen that you can find around is dependent on that. So lichen won't grow when the air quality is low. Okay, you can also look for butterflies. So if you don't see many butterflies in your city, it's because the air quality is quite low. The more butterflies you see in nature, the better the air quality. And finally, rose black spot fungus, okay, is found in less polluted places. So rose black spot fungus is a fungus that grows on roses, okay, it really destroys them, but it means that your air quality at least doesn't have this sulfur dioxide poison, which will usually prevent its growth. So that's another indicator species. Okay, my name is Cameron, and this has been Ecology, and I'll see you in the next lesson.